Addie, why does she hate me? Those were the words that tore through my heart like a bullet. My 7-year-old daughter, Lily, sat on the curb beside her wheelchair, tears streaming down her cheeks. Just moments ago, the woman who calls herself the HOA president had kicked her off the school bus, calling her defective. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I love knowing how far these stories travel. Lily was born with cerebral palsy. She's brave, gentle, and the strongest person I've ever known. Every morning, she waits at the corner, backpack ready, smile brighter than the sunrise. But today, that smile was gonna crushed by someone who thought kindness was optional. That woman's name was Karen Walsh. Around here, she controls everything: rules, neighbors, even fear. But she made one mistake. She went after the wrong child. Because I'm not just Lily's dad. And an ADCO. And when someone hurts my daughter, I don't fight with fists, I fight with justice. My name is Jake Morrison, and before I became a single father, I was a Navy SEAL. I've jumped from planes in enemy territory, swum through freezing oceans, and stared death in the face more times than I can count. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for raising my daughter alone after her mother passed away. Lee came into this world fighting. Doctors said she might never walk, but she proved them wrong with every shaky step she took in those little metal leg braces. Every morning, she waits at the corner for her yellow school bus, her pink backpack bouncing against her chair, and her smile lighting up the whole street. The driver, Mr. Henry, always greets her with "Good morning, sunshine." It's our small ritual, something that makes Lily feel normal. Just another kid heading to school. For years, things were peaceful. The neighbors were kind, the school was supportive, and Lily felt safe. But then Karen Walsh moved into the neighborhood. She came with expensive clothes, a fake smile, and a clipboard full of rules. Within days, she'd made herself HOA president and started acting like she owned the entire community. At first, it was harmless complaints about lawn heights and mailbox colors, but soon, her attention shifted to my daughter. To her, Lily was the child. She was a problem. And when she decided to fix that problem, she had no idea that the man she was about to challenge had fought real wars and was ready to fight another one at home. It started with a letter. A neat white envelope sitting in my mailbox, stamped with the HOA logo. I'd opened it thinking it was another notice about lawn maintenance or recycling schedules. But when I read the first line, my blood turned cold. "Dear Mr. Morrison, it has come to our attention that your daughter requires special accommodations at the bus stop. The bus stop is HOA property. Special needs children slow down the bus schedule and create liability issues. We request that you make alternative transportation arrangements for your daughter." Signed, Karen Walsh, HOA president. I read it twice, then a third time, just to make sure it was real. My hands shook, not from fear but from fury. How could anyone write something so heartless about a child? About my daughter? I picked up the phone and called her immediately. "This is Jake Morrison," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I just received your letter." Karen's voice came through the line, smooth and fake, dripping with arrogance. "Oh yes, Mr. Morrison. I'm sure you understand our concerns." "No," I said flatly. "I doubt. My daughter has every right to ride that bus. Your daughter takes extra time to board. She delays the schedule. Parents have complained." "Then give me their names," I snapped. "That's confidential," she said smugly. I could almost hear her smiling through the phone. "Listen to me carefully," I said, my tone dropping lower. "My daughter has cerebral palsy. The Americans with Disabilities Act protects her right to ride that bus. If you interfere, it'll bury you in legal action so deep you'll forget what daylight looks like." I hung up before she could reply. For a moment, I thought that was the end of it. But I underestimated her. Karen Walsh wasn't done. She had declared war, and she was about to find out what happens when you challenge a Navy SEAL who's protecting his child. I didn't react with violence. I reacted with a plan. Before we continue, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I love knowing how far these stories travel. Now back to the moment everything changed. First, I called the school district and the bus company. The woman at the transport office confirmed what I already suspected. The bus was run by the district, not the HOA, and no one had the right to ban a student. I filed a formal complaint and asked for CAT's footage from the bus stop. Then I called a lawyer. A good one, someone who understood disability law and didn't flinch when I said the words Americans with Disabilities Act. He told me to document everything. Every letter, every conversation, every witness. I started building a paper trail, a whole notice, screenshots of Karen's smart messages about neighborhood standards, and statements from parents who had seen how Lily was always treated kindly. Next, I called a few old friends from my Navy SEAL days. Not for revenge, for information. Marcus, my brother-in-arms, promised to run a background check on Karen. 48 hours later, he called back with the kind of truth that makes your stomach twist. Bankruptcy filings, divorces, and a record of a daughter shed once abandoned in a state institution. Suddenly, her hatred made sense, but it didn't make it right. While I prepared my case, Karen doubled down. One morning, she blocked the school bus with her body, yelling that Lily wasn't allowed to board. When Lily tried to step up, Karen grabbed her arm. That was the moment I moved fast and silent. My neighbor filmed everything on their phone. Karen's hand clutching Lily, Lily crying, my voice low and controlled as I told Karen to never touch my child again. That video became evidence, a weapon of truth. The next day, parents started whispering, the neighborhood divided, and Karen panicked. She filed a false CAPS report claiming I was an unfit father. 2 days later, a caseworker arrived at my door. She checked the house, the fridge, Lily's room. Lily sat brave and small on her bed, telling her, "Daddy makes me pancakes every morning." The investigator smiled, closed her file, and told me she'd be filing charges for a false report. That should have been enough. But I wasn't stopping. I'd spent years fighting for my country, now I was fighting for my daughter. I called for an emergency HOA meeting, gathered my files, the video, and every witness statement I could get. Karen thought she could break me with lies, but she was about to learn that truth in the hands of a Navy SEAL hits harder than any weapon. The night of the HOA meeting felt like a battlefield, only this time, my weapon was the truth. The community hall was packed, every chair filled, neighbors standing along the walls. You could feel the tension in the air, a quiet buzz of curiosity and anger. Karen sat up front with that same smug smile she always wore, pretending to be calm. I took a deep breath, looked around the room, and said, "Before we begin, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I want people everywhere to know what happens when power is abused." Then I turned back to the crowd. "My name is Jake Morrison. In here because someone tried to destroy my daughter's dignity and I won't let that go unanswered." I connected my laptop to the projector, and the first image appeared, the letter from Karen, banning Lily from the bus. Asks rippled through the audience. Then came the next slide of the video from the bus stop. Everyone watched in silence as Karen grabbed Lily's arm, my daughter crying, the chaos freezing on the screen. The room erupted in outrage. "You grabbed a disabled child," one man shouted. "She's just a little girl," another voice cried. Karen tried to speak, but her words drowned in the noise. "These are lies," she snapped. I raised my hand, calm but firm. "I have witness statements, official reports, and the CAPS file proving she filed a false complaint against me. This isn't just harassment, it's discrimination." The whole board members whispered among themselves. Then one of the older men stood up. "I move to remove Karen Walsh as HOA president immediately." "I second that," a woman said from the back. The vote was quick, unanimous, and loud. Karen's face turned pale as every hand in the room rose against her. She tried to protest, but the power she once clung to slipped away like sand in her fingers. But that wasn't the end. My lawyer filed a lawsuit: discrimination, emotional distress, and false reporting. The evidence was overwhelming. In court, the judge's voice cut through the silence. "Ms. Walsh, you targeted a disabled child and called her defective. You thought you were protecting property values, but you forgot to protect humanity. You ruled in our favor on every count, fining her $500,000 and sentencing her to 1 year in jail for filing false reports. As the gavel struck, Lily squeezed my hand and whispered, "Daddy, we won." And for the first time in months, I let myself breathe. Justice had spoken. 6 months later, life finally felt peaceful again. The air around our neighborhood seemed lighter, kinder, like the storm had finally passed. The bus still arrived every morning and Lily still waited at the corner with her pink backpack, waving to Mr. Henry. Only this time, the smiles weren't forced, they were real. The other parents waved too, their faces soft with warmth instead of judgment. Karen Walsh was gone. Her house was empty, her power stripped away, and her name was now just a warning of what hate can do to a person. She served her sentence, but the scars she left behind would take longer to fade. One afternoon, as Lily painted butterflies on the porch, she looked up and said, "Daddy, do you think she's sorry?" I paused. "Maybe," I said quietly. "But sorry doesn't undo what she did. It just means she finally understands." Lily nodded, dipping her brush in yellow paint. "Then I forgive her," she said. "Because I don't want to be like her." Her words hit me harder than any punch I'd taken in combat. My little girl had already learned what it takes most adults a lifetime to grasp. Forgiveness is weakness, it's strength. Weeks later, the local news aired our story, calling it a victory for disabled children everywhere. Messages poured in from around the world. Parents shared their own stories of fighting discrimination, of standing up for their kids. So before this story ends, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from and if you'd fight for your child the same way. Because stories like this aren't just about pain. They're about hope, courage, and the power of love that refuses to break. Today Lily is thriving. She walks taller, laughs louder, and paints brighter than ever. She even helps a new neighbor's son, a boy in a wheelchair, climb onto the same bus she once cried beside. Watching them together, I realized something. Karen tried to destroy my daughter, but instead, she built a warrior. A little girl who learned that being different is the weakness. It's a superpower. And as long as there are parents willing to stand, no child will ever ride that bus alone again.